Greetings, metalheads. Today I've got something different for you, something that I haven't done before, a more informal and playful, if you will, session. Because today we're going to play with ChatGPT AI. We're going to give it a prompt and see if it can write meta lyrics and, more exactly, imitate one of the masters of metal, which is Dani Filth. Difficult task for the poor AI. So I'm eager to see the outcome, and of course we're going to discuss it and analyze it, and maybe it will give some insight into the characteristics of Dani's writing, and also into the mechanisms of creating poetry. People have been trying out ChatGPT for a lot of things, but my first concern when I learned about it was, can it create literary fiction, and how well can it do it, and what are the mechanisms of human intelligence creating literary fiction versus the artificial intelligence. ChatGPT is an AI specialized in generating text by compiling information existent all over the internet into a coherent text in a way that is infinitely more efficient than a human. We know that given very precise input, the AI is able to write non-fiction articles, it is able to do research, to write self-help books, technical writing, it can come up with ideas for novels, and it can actually write literary fiction as well. How does it do it, and is it comparable to what a human can write or not? In order to write prose, you need compelling themes, an engaging plot, and characters that feel real enough to allow the reader to connect with them on an emotional level and to be immersed into the story and want to learn what will happen to the characters next. As for poetry, you need very vivid language and a more elliptical style. You need the ability to concentrate all your ideas into very poignant words with the use of symbols and metaphors. Both poetry and prose need to be thought-provoking and to elicit strong emotions in the reader. And this is just an oversimplification. Of course, the AI's creativity is based on prompts, on its ability to compile information generated by others and thought up by humans, and its ability to imitate what has already been written. So without further ado, let's give it a prompt and find out if the AI can write like one of my favorite contemporary poets, you guessed it, Dani Filth. So first, let's see if it knows who Dani is. Wow. A whole biography. Okay, so what is he like as a lyricist? Just a little introduction to put it on track, because I don't want to trick the AI. Okay, so he's known for his dark and controversial lyrics, which draw inspiration from a variety of sources, including horror fiction, mythology, and occultism. He has a unique writing style that combines poetic language with visceral, graphic imagery and often explores themes of death, darkness, and the supernatural. Filth's lyrics are often highly symbolic and open to interpretation, and he frequently uses metaphors and allusions to create a sense of mystery and intrigue. He also has a strong interest in history and frequently references historical events and figures in his lyrics. Overall, Dani Filth's lyrics are a key part of Freyja Filth's distinct sound and have helped to establish the band as one of the most influential and provocative in the extreme metal genre. Okay, I want you to write the lyrics for a song in the style of Dani Filth. The song should be about... Okay, so let's think about a topic that is Freyja Filth-like, but something that they haven't really touched upon yet, so as not to give the AI the opportunity to copy. We know that Dani Filth has written a lot about pagan goddesses. Hear him talk about Freyja, the goddess of fertility and beauty and love in Norse mythology, because as you might know, I'm very passionate about Norse mythology, and we find only very, very few references in Cradle of Filth's lyrics to that part of spirituality and history. So let's see about the goddess Freyja. Let's see what it says. A queen of beauty, fierce and bold, Freyja, goddess tales of old, adorned in gold with chariot drawn, her might and magic revered and fawned. Chorus. Freyja, goddess of love and war, power and passion forevermore, mighty Valkyrie graced the skies, with sword in hand she never dies. Verse 2. Her tears like amber, her gaze like fire, she rules. Freyja's might none can retire. She rules the land, the sky, the sea, her magic strong and ever free. Okay, the chorus again, verse 3. Her beauty pure, her strength unmatched. Freyja's power none can dispatch. With Brisingamen, her brooch that has mythical powers. She shines so bright, her glory a never-ending sight. Bridge. It even has a bridge. In battlefields, her warriors fight. Their souls she guides to the afterlife. Her might and power forever reign. Freyja, goddess forever remain. Okay. We see, even at a first glance, that the structure that this song uses is a very traditional one. We have verse, chorus, verse, alternately a chorus and another verse, and then the bridge, and then the chorus, which is something that is heavily used in mainstream music and something that Cradle of Filth usually avoids. We don't often have choruses and bridges with Cradle of Filth. Instead, their song structure is more akin to classical music. Then if we look at each verse, we also see that it is very common in structure, because we have quatrains, stanzas consisting of 4 lines, which are written in iambic tetrameter, which means that they have 4 sets of syllables. The second syllable is stressed. So a queen of beauty, fierce and bold. And this is the most common type of verse in English literature, along with the iambic pentameter, which is 1 syllable longer than this. So this is like the most basic type of poetry possible with English literature. This is certainly not what Dani Filth has. It is true that Cradle of Filth often has a rhyme scheme, and it is usually with this form AB right before, because the first line rhymes with the third and the second rhymes with the fourth. But Cradle of Filth doesn't usually have stanzas consisting of 4 lines, so the rhyme does not seem as repetitive as the one that we have here. The lines are longer, so even if he does use a lot of rhyme, because his literature is inspired by 19th century poetry, it really does not look like this. Okay, before I comment more, because I think it's really unfair for the poor AI, let's just say, can you make it darker? Because it's really, really light-hearted. Okay, let's see it make it darker. A queen of shadows, feared and bold, Freyja, goddess tales untold, adorned with darkness with chariot black, her might and magic a fierce attack. By darker, the AI understood that it should use imagery related to literal darkness. So now it uses shadows, darkness, black chariot. Magic is dark. She rules the night, the cold, the graves. All right. Her tears are like poison, her gaze like death. All right, so it tries to use some gothic imagery. And how in the world is the magic dark and ever enslaved? Wow. Okay, so let's proceed to discussing the content of the poem, the themes, the images, the symbols, and the writing style. First thing I notice is that the male speaker, the lyrical eye, is completely missing. This is not Dani Filth like. The male speaker's voice is always very poignant, very heartfelt. His writing does not consist of objective, matter-of-fact descriptions, of almost didactic ones like the ones we see here that basically tell us who Freyja is, what she looks like, and what she does. But his descriptions are visceral ones that emphasize the impact which the person or the thing described has upon the speaker. Also, remember the power dynamics between the male and the female in Dani Filth's lyrics, where the male is enthralled by the female, he draws both his power, his desire, and his suffering from her, and she is sort of the center of his existence. And of course, this is something that I've discussed many, many times. Nowhere here do we have anything of the like. There would be lines showing this relationship. The male speaker would probably be, I imagine, one of the Einherjar, the fallen heroes, who has fought against Jesus Christ and his hordes. He has burned down some monasteries, killed a ton of Christians, he has died, and now he's being resurrected by Freyja and cast back into the fray, where he burns down the Vatican and destroys Christianity and lets Freyja reign supreme, as it actually says here in the song. And this is one of the few things that I think the AI got right. I will rule as a king, and the goddess will sit as my guiding queen. And remember the line from A Crescendo of Passion Bleeding that really illustrates the type of relationship between them. Also, I imagine that if Dani were to write this, or if I were to write it imitating Dani, I would make the speaker an undead, because the Einherjar in Norse myths are basically undead. They're draugr, as they are called in Old Norse, because there is no notion of the spirit in Norse myths, so the only way to exist after death is in body, and thus we would have an interesting backstory given to the male speaker as well. We already have an undead male speaker in Lord Abortion, so it wouldn't be beyond Dani to write something like this. Moreover, we would have vivid descriptions about how Christians must be enslaved, about how the world must be destroyed in order to be restored to its pagan glory. The goddess and the male warrior would rule side by side in blasphemy and tyranny. They would be drinking from the skulls of their enemies. I would not be expecting ChatGPT to write something as dark and gritty as this, because well, I see that it has a problem with writing about slavery, for instance. So this is only one of the multitude of taboo topics that it has, and that Dani Filth doesn't have. In fact, as we know, Dani plunges with a great joy into anything controversial. Furthermore, about the descriptions of Freyja, they are way too tame. If this were written by Dani, the song would be much more erotic. Freyja is a goddess of fertility and death, and fertility is just an acceptable way to describe it, because in some myths she actually appears as a sort of goddess of sex. Lokasena, for example, she is said to be sleeping with everybody indiscriminately, humans, dwarves, jotuns, and everyone in between. This is ample opportunity to go into the realm of the erotic, as Dani often does, even with less sexualized historical or mythical figures. She is often a goddess of battle and death, seen in, at least in popular understanding, as a sort of a queen of the Valkyries because of her ability to receive fallen warriors. So a warring seductress, come on, she's the ultimate dominatrix, and Dani would not miss the opportunity to describe her as such. Take me, mistress, until perversion is fed. Remember how he addresses the goddess in Of Mist and Midnight Skies. So there would be, I imagine, descriptions of him having a vampiric addiction to being in full submission to her, to quote Nymphetamine, or to quote one of their most erotic songs, namely of Dark Blood and Fucking, he would be Christ-like, wept and weak in front of her, because of course another difference from Dani's actual writing and this poem is that Dani never misses the chance to blaspheme. There's nothing bad about Jesus here. Jesus is not even mentioned. So the male speaker and the goddess would be at each other's throats. She would be driving her nails through him, and he would be writhing like a serpent in her dark secret Eden. Okay, there is no Eden in Norse myths, but we have her great hall, Folkvanger, we have Ginnungagap, the primordial void, so there are plenty of opportunities for metaphors. He would be tasting the magic and secrets from her lips, and she would be gorging upon his seed, to quote from Of Dark Blood and Fucking again. In other words, the tone and the wording are very, very off and not like Dani at all. We do have Cradle of Filth songs written mostly in third person, namely those narrating a story, like the ones about Elizabeth Bathory, Gilles de Rais, Adam and Eve and Lilith, Lucifer and Satan. But even those are really visceral in their emotion towards the subject. Interestingly, with Cradle of Filth, the subject isn't really praised. If I were to compare it with, I don't know, say, Emperor's Ino a Satana, Almighty Lord, Master of Beasts. With Cradle of Filth, Satan is an asshole, Gilles de Rais is an asshole, Elizabeth is an asshole. No one is really idealized in the sense that Freyja is idealized in this poem, idealized in a very aesthetically pleasing kind of way. Even in those songs where the female aspect is placed upon a pedestal in Dani Filth's lyrics, we still have those very gritty images of sexuality and of the feminine that I discussed in some of the songs concerning Elizabeth Bathory, told in a sophisticated and symbolic fashion, but not using a lot of euphemism, whereas here the eroticism is missing, the intensity is missing, the rawness, the violence. This is something that I think a middle grade student would be writing for an assignment if they were told to imitate 19th century love poetry, whereas Dani Filth goes way beyond this, and he writes things that 19th century poets would be ashamed to write, or better yet, not ashamed. I bet they would love to write this, but they would be censored by their time, and they would never have been published if they were to write like Dani Filth. But ChatGPT is extremely tame. It writes as if it were censored by Victorian society itself. So I think we can all agree that the AI hasn't managed to capture the essence of Dani Filth's lyrics. Interestingly, it knows how to characterize Dani Filth's lyrics in theory with both poetic language and visceral graphic imagery. But the AI is completely incapable of applying that into writing because it is incapable of internalizing Cradle of Filth's writing. And the outcome is completely devoid of emotion and devoid of any personality. So I hope you enjoyed this little experiment, this session of playing with ChatGPT. I think that beyond the enjoyment of it, it has revealed a few interesting things, not only about the characteristics of Dani's writing, but also about how difficult it is to create poetry, especially at the level of a writer with such a poignant literary voice and strong personality as Dani Filth. So maybe we have given the AI too difficult a task. So this was my video for today, my much more informal discussion than usual. And if you liked it, please like and subscribe to my channel and stay tuned for my next video, where I will be analyzing most likely a song that is actually written by Dani Filth. Until then, stay inspired.